Commander Lorak Vex stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Confederation's flagship, Eternal Glory, gazing at the small blue planet below, Earth. Such an unremarkable name for such a problematic world. Remind me again why we are wasting our time with these humans? Lorak asked, his four nostrils flaring in annoyance. Admiral Zero Pax, a tall, slender being with pale purple skin and 6 fingers on each hand, stepped forward. The Council insists, Commander, despite their primitive technology and laughably short lifespans, they have managed to attract attention. Their resistance to our preliminary probes was unexpected. Unexpected, Lorak snorted. A sound that resembled water bubbling through thick mud. That's diplomatic speak for they blew up 3 of our scout ships and somehow hacked into our supposedly unhackable network. Am I right? Admiral Pax shifted uncomfortably. Yes. Well, that's part of it. Lorak turned away from the viewport, his 7-foot frame towering over the Admiral. His thick gray hide glistened under the ship's lights and the ridge of bony protrusions along his spine rattled slightly when he moved. A sign of agitation that his subordinates had learned to fear. Part of it. What's the other part? Pax, please tell me we didn't send another diplomatic team down there. The last one came back missing limbs and reciting human entertainment videos. What did they call them? Movie? No diplomatic team, Pax assured him, but, well, the humans have expanded again. They have established a mining colony on Proxima Centauri b. That's technically within our territorial boundaries according to the Galactic Accord. Lorak stared at him. They are not signatories to the Accord, they don't even know it exists. Yes, but we do. And according to our laws, we should have subjugated them 50 rotations ago when they first started sending their primitive radio signals into space. Lorak interrupted. Instead, the Council voted for observation and non-interference. And look where that's gotten us, they are spreading like a fungal infection. A soft chime interrupted their conversation. Lieutenant Cora Nix entered the observation deck, her 4 arms carrying various data tablets. As a Quatsarian, Cora's species was known for their exceptional analytical abilities and their unusual reproductive cycle, which involved 3 different sexes and a larval stage that lasted nearly a century. Cora herself was barely an adult at 342 years. Pardon the interruption, Commander. Admiral, she said, her voice melodic despite the serious expression on her face. We have received new intelligence from our deep cover agent on Earth. We have a deep cover agent on Earth? Lorak asked, turning to Admiral Pax with an accusatory glare. Pax shrugged his narrow shoulders. The Council authorized it without consulting Fleet Command. Typical bureaucratic maneuvering. Lorak muttered something uncomplimentary about the Council, their ancestry and their personal hygiene habits before turning back to Cora. Go on, Lieutenant. Our agent reports that the humans are preparing something they call Project Ascension. Details are scarce, but it appears to involve significant advancements in their propulsion technology. They are planning to send a large ship beyond their solar system, not just a probe or a small vessel, but something capable of carrying hundreds, perhaps thousands of their kind. Thousands. Loriak's upper lip curled, revealing teeth designed for tearing flesh. Where do they think they are going? According to the intercepted communications, they are heading toward the Arcturus system. A heavy silence fell over the observation deck. Arcturus was home to one of the Confederation's largest military installations, as well as a thriving commerce hub that served dozens of species. They can't possibly know what's there, Admiral Pax said finally. Their telescopes and sensors are too primitive to detect our presence at that distance. Unless, Lorak said slowly, they found something on one of our scout ships before they destroyed it. Or perhaps they extracted information from the diplomatic team they traumatized. Cora's 4 arms moved in perfect synchronization as she pulled up additional data. There's more, Commander. Our agent has also reported unusual activity around what the humans call Area 51. It's a secret military facility in one of their desert regions. I know what Area 51 is, Lieutenant, Lorak snapped. Every juvenile in the galaxy has heard the humans' ridiculous conspiracy theories about that place. Are you telling me there's actually something there? Yes, Commander. According to our agent, they have been reverse engineering technology that isn't theirs. Lorak's ridge rattled loudly. They have a ship. Not just any ship, Cora said. Based on the descriptions, it's a Praxian scout vessel, Class C, stealth-capable with quantum navigation systems. How in the seven hells did the humans get their hands on Praxian technology? Pax demanded. The Praxians haven't visited this sector in over 1,000 years. I can answer that, came a new voice from the entrance to the observation deck. All three officers turned to see a figure step out of the shadows. It was a Praxian, tall and willowy, with skin that seemed to shimmer between deep green and midnight blue. Its eyes were large and completely black, with no discernible pupils or irises. Ambassador Threll, Lorak acknowledged, not bothering to hide his displeasure. I wasn't aware you were on board. The council thought it best, Threll said, gliding into the room with the effortless grace characteristic of their species. Given the delicate nature of the situation. What situation is that exactly? Lorak asked. The one where primitive humans somehow obtained advanced Praxian technology. Care to explain that, Ambassador? Threll's skin rippled. A Praxian expression equivalent to a shrug. We lost contact with one of our historical research vessels approximately 70 Earth years ago. It was assumed destroyed in an asteroid collision. Evidently that assumption was incorrect. 70 years, Lorak repeated. That's quite a long time for humans. They have had 70 years to study your technology, and you never thought to mention this possibility to the Confederation. We didn't consider it relevant. Threll replied smoothly. Human technology was so far behind ours that we believed they would be unable to understand, let alone replicate, our systems. Well, you were wrong, Lorak growled. And now we have humans with Praxian technology planning to send thousands of their kind toward one of our most important systems. I'd say that's extremely relevant, Ambassador. Before Threll could respond, another chime sounded. More urgent this time. Lieutenant Cora checked her day tablet and her 4 eyes widened simultaneously. Commander, we are detecting a launch from Earth, a large vessel. Accelerating at this can't be right. She double-checked her readings. It's accelerating at rates that should be impossible for human technology. On screen, Lorak ordered. A large holographic display materialized in the center of the observation deck, showing a sleek, silver vessel rising from Earth's atmosphere. It didn't look like any human design they had observed before. It was elegant, streamlined, with no visible propulsion system. That's not possible, Admiral Pax whispered. They can't have advanced this quickly. Magnify, Lorak commanded. The image zoomed in, revealing details of the ship's hull. There, emblazoned on the side, was a symbol, a blue Earth surrounded by stars, with the words Unity above it and Project Ascension below. It's their ship, Cora confirmed. And it's heading directly toward us. Impossible, Pax repeated. They shouldn't be able to detect us. We are under full stealth protocols. Ambassador Threll moved closer to the display, their skin now shifting to a deep, troubled purple. That design, it incorporates Praxian elements. But there are modifications, significant ones. Are you saying they have improved your technology? Lorak asked incredulously. Not improved, necessarily, Threll said carefully. But adapted it in ways we hadn't considered. Lorak turned to Admiral Pax. Battle stations. Power up the defensive systems. Wait, Threll interrupted. We don't know their intentions. This could be a peaceful mission. A peaceful mission? Lorak laughed, a harsh, grating sound. They are heading straight for a cloaked military vessel with technology they shouldn't possess. I'm not taking any chances. Commander, Cora interjected, her voice tense. They are hailing us. Silence fell over the observation deck once again. They know we are here, Admiral Pax said unnecessarily. Obviously, Lorak replied dryly. Put them through, Lieutenant. Let's see what these humans have to say for themselves. The holographic display shifted, and a human face appeared. Male, middle-aged by human standards, with dark skin and close-cropped gray hair. He wore a uniform of some kind, navy blue with silver accents. Attention, unidentified vessel. The human said, his voice calm and confident. This is Captain Marcus Taylor of the Earthship Unity. We know you are there and we know you have been watching us. We'd like to talk. Lorak stepped forward. This is Commander Lorak Vex of the Galactic Confederation vessel Eternal Glory. You are in violation of restricted space. Return to your planet immediately. Captain Taylor smiled, an expression that Lorak had learned meant either friendliness or danger when it came humans. In this case he suspected the latter. I'm afraid we can't do that, Commander. You see, we have spent decades preparing for this moment, ever since we recovered your scout ship in 1947. 1947. Admiral Pax whispered to Ambassador Threll. That's more than 70 Earth years ago. It wasn't our ship, Threll whispered back. It must have been one of yours. Captain Taylor continued, either unaware of or unconcerned by their side conversation. We have learned quite a bit about your confederation, your hierarchies, your technologies, your vulnerabilities. Lorak's ridge rattled in warning. Are you threatening us, human? Not at all, Taylor replied smoothly. I'm simply stating facts. We know you have been debating whether to establish formal contact with Earth or to, what was the phrase in your council minutes? Neutralize the potential threat before it fully emerges. We decided not to wait for your decision. How do you have access to council minutes? Admiral Pax demanded, stepping into view of the communication feed. Taylor's smile widened. We have friends in unexpected places, Admiral. The galaxy is full of species who aren't entirely satisfied with Confederation policies. Some were quite willing to share information. Lorak turned to Threll, his expression furious. The Praxians. Threll's skin had turned an ashy gray, a sign of extreme distress. No. We are loyal to the Confederation. But there are other races who might have grievances. The Arcturians, Cora suggested quietly. They have been pushing for human inclusion for decades. Traitors. Lorak snarled. Pragmatists, Taylor corrected. They recognize what you refuse to acknowledge. Humans aren't going away. We are coming to the galactic stage whether you like it or not. The only question is whether we arrive as friends or something else. Your species is barely out of its infancy, Lorak countered. You have had spaceflight for less than a century. The races of the Confederation have been traveling between stars for millennia. And yet, Taylor said, here we are. Having detected your supposedly undetectable ship, built our own vessel using technology you thought we couldn't comprehend, and accessed information you thought was secure. Imagine what we could accomplish as allies instead of adversaries. Before Lorak could respond, Lieutenant Cora gasped. Commander, I'm detecting multiple launches from Earth. Dozens of vessels, similar to the Unity but smaller. A fleet, Admiral Pax said, aghast. They have built a fleet. On the display, Captain Taylor's expression remained calm. Not a fleet, Admiral. An exodus. Each ship carries volunteer colonists, families, scientists, engineers, artists. The best of humanity seeking new homes among the stars. This is an invasion, Lorak accused. This is survival, Taylor countered. We have seen your reports on our planet's climate crisis, your projections about our society's stability. We know we need to expand beyond Earth or face extinction within a few centuries. We chose expansion. The Council will never allow this, Admiral Pax warned. The Council doesn't have a choice, Taylor replied. By the time you report back, our ships will be scattered throughout this sector of the galaxy. You can't stop all of us. Lorak turned to his officers. Cut the transmission. The human's face disappeared from the display, replaced by the image of the Unity, now much closer to the eternal glory. Options, Lorak demanded. We could destroy their ships, Admiral Pax suggested. They may have advanced but they can't possibly match our firepower. We don't know that, Threll cautioned. If they have had Praxian technology for decades and improved upon it, they might have defensive capabilities we haven't anticipated. We can't just let them spread throughout Confederation space, Lorak argued. The Council would have our heads. Perhaps, Cora suggested hesitantly, we should contact the Council for instructions. This situation is unprecedented. Lorak considered this for a moment, then nodded reluctantly. Establish a quantum link to Council headquarters. Priority Alpha. Yes, Commander, Cora acknowledged, her forearms working rapidly across her data tablets. While they waited for the connection, Lorak returned his gaze to the viewport where the Earth vessel Unity now hung in space. A silent challenge to everything the Confederation stood for. These humans, these brief, fragile creatures, had managed to upend thousands of years of galactic protocol in less than a century. Connection established, Cora announced. Council Chairperson Drax is responding personally. A new holographic image appeared, showing an ancient being with translucent skin through which complex circulatory and nervous systems were visible. Chairperson Drax had led the council for over 300 years and was known for their deliberative, cautious approach to all matters. Commander Vex. Drax acknowledged, their voice like dry leaves rustling. Explain this urgent communication. Lorak quickly outlined the situation: the human ship Unity, its captain's claims, the multiple launches from Earth, the apparent technological leap, and the potential involvement of other Confederation races in assisting the humans. When he finished, Drax was silent for a long moment, their internal systems pulsing with increased activity, the equivalent of a human's quickened heartbeat. This is most disturbing, Drax said finally. We had not anticipated such rapid advancement or such bold action from the humans. What are your orders, Chairperson? Lorak asked. Shall we intercept their vessels? Prevent this exodus? Drax's translucent fingers tapped against each other in a pattern that indicated deep thought. No. Any aggressive action might provoke a response we are not prepared for. If Captain Taylor speaks truthfully about having allies within the Confederation, a conflict with humans could trigger a wider schism. So we do nothing? Admiral Pax asked, incredulous. Not nothing, Admiral, Drax corrected. Commander Vex, you will re-establish communication with the human vessel. Inform Captain Taylor that representatives of the Council will meet with Earth's leaders to discuss their entry into the galactic community. Entry? Lorak couldn't keep the shock from his voice. Chairperson, with all due respect, humans aren't ready for Confederation membership. They are impulsive, aggressive, and culturally immature. They are also innovative, adaptable, and apparently capable of surprising even our most seasoned military commanders, Drax replied with what might have been a trace of amusement. The time for observation has passed. Now we must engage. And the ship's already launched? Lorak asked. They will be allowed to proceed but monitored closely. Assign escort vessels to each. Officially they will be guides. Unofficially they will be prepared to neutralize any threat. Yes, Chairperson, Lorak acknowledged, though the ridge along his spine rattled with suppressed fury. One more thing, Commander, Drax added. I want the Praxian ship the humans recovered. Negotiate for its return as part of any agreement. Understood. The transmission ended, leaving the observation deck in silence once again. Well, Admiral Pax said finally, that didn't go as expected. Nothing about this mission has gone as expected. Lorak growled. Lieutenant Cora, re-establish communication with the Unity. As Cora worked to reconnect with the human vessel, Ambassador Thrall approached Lorak. Commander, if I may, perhaps this development isn't entirely negative. Humans have shown remarkable adaptability that could be an asset to the Confederation in our ongoing difficulties with the Void Collective. Lorak snorted. You think these upstart primates could help us against the Void? They'd be annihilated in their first encounter. Perhaps, Thrall acknowledged. Or perhaps they would surprise us, as they have done today. Before Lorak could respond, Captain Taylor's face reappeared on the holographic display. Have you reached a decision, Commander? The human asked, still infuriatingly calm. Lorak forced his facial muscles into what he hoped approximated a diplomatic expression. The Galactic Confederation acknowledges Earth's technological advancement and the initiative shown by your people. The Council has agreed to formal discussions regarding Earth's potential role in the wider galactic community. If Taylor was surprised by this announcement, he didn't show it. He simply nodded. That's a sensible decision. When and where would these discussions take place? A delegation will be sent to Earth within one of your lunar cycles. Lorak replied. In the meantime, your colony ships will be allowed to proceed to their destinations, but they will be accompanied by Confederation vessels. For navigation purposes, he added, not very convincingly. Taylor smiled that dangerous smile again. Of course. We would welcome the assistance. Space is vast and treacherous. After all. Indeed, Lorak agreed tightly. There is one other matter. The Council requests the return of the Praxian vessel recovered by your people in 1947. For the first time, Taylor looked genuinely surprised. Praxian? The ship we recovered wasn't Praxian. According to our analysis, it was Confederation specifically, a Draconian scoutship. Lorak felt his blood run cold. Draconians were the most militaristic species in the Confederation and fiercely protective of their technology. If humans had been studying Draconian tech for decades, I see, he managed to say. Nevertheless, the Council requests its return as a gesture of good faith. I will have to discuss that with Earth's leadership, Taylor replied. The vessel has significant historical importance to us. Of course, Lorak said, mentally calculating how long it would take to alert the Draconian High Command and what their likely reaction would be. Not good. On either count. Is there anything else, Commander? Taylor asked. Not at this time. Eternal glory out. Lorak signaled Cora to end the transmission. Once the human's face had disappeared, Lorak turned to his officers and the Praxian answer. Well, that complicates matters. Admiral Pax, prepare a secure transmission to the Draconian High Command. They need to know about this immediately. Yes, Commander, Pax acknowledged, looking distinctly uncomfortable with the task. Lieutenant Cora, I want continuous monitoring of all those human ships. Track their trajectories, scan for weapons systems, and maintain constant surveillance. Yes, Commander. Ambassador Threll, Lorak continued. I suggest you inform your government of these developments. The Praxians may not be directly involved, but if the humans have been adapting Draconian technology, who knows what else they might have acquired. Threll nodded, their skin now a thoughtful blue-green. I will do so immediately. And Kander, I would recommend caution in your report to the Draconians. They might see this as an opportunity for preemptive action against Earth. Noted. Lorak said grimly. Though at this point I'm not entirely opposed to the idea. As the others left to carry out their tasks, Lorak remained on the observation deck, staring out at the Unity. Such an innocent name for a vessel that had just fundamentally altered the balance of power in this sector of the galaxy. Humans, always underestimated, always surprising, their brief lives burned with an intensity that longer-lived species some minds lacked. They accomplished in decades what took others centuries, driven by their awareness of their own mortality. Perhaps that was what made them dangerous. Or valuable. Or both. Lorak's ridge rattled softly as he considered the possibilities. The coming cycles would be interesting, and in the ancient wisdom of his species, interesting times were most definitely a curse, not a blessing. As he watched, the Unity began to move away, setting course for the stars beyond. The humans had made their move. Now the galaxy would have to adjust, ready or not. And somehow, Lorak suspected that it was the galaxy, not the humans, that wasn't ready. 3 lunar cycles later, Commander Lorak Vex found himself in a position he'd never imagined, sitting across from human representatives in a grand hall in what they called Geneva, mediating a dispute between the Draconians and Earth's United Global Council. This is preposterous, General Carax of the Draconian fleet thundered, his scaled fists slamming onto the polished table. That vessel was classified military technology. Its recovery should have been reported to the Confederation immediately. Instead, you primitives disassembled it, studied it, and used it to leapfrog centuries of technological development. Dr. Elena Patel, Earth's chief negotiator, remained impressively calm in the face of the 9-foot reptilian's rage. With all due respect, General, when an unknown spacecraft crashes on your planet, your first instinct isn't to report it to an organization you don't know exists. It's to understand what it is and whether it poses a threat. A wise approach, Ambassador Threll commented, their skin shifting to an approving shade of turquoise. Especially given that the vessel was, by your own admission, General Carax, engaged in unauthorized surveillance of a non-Confederation world. The Draconian general swiveled his massive head toward the Praxian, yellow eyes narrowing to slits. Our reconnaissance was sanctioned by the Council's Security Committee. Without full Council approval, Chairperson Drax pointed out from the head of the table, their translucent form pulsing with what Lorak had learned to recognize as irritation. A procedural oversight that the Draconians had been repeatedly cautioned against. Lorak suppressed a snort. Procedural oversight was diplomatic speak for blatantly ignoring galactic law when it suits you. The Draconians had been pushing boundaries for centuries, but no one had the spine or in some cases the exoskeletal equivalent to challenge them directly. Their military prowess was too valuable to the Confederation, especially with the Void Collective expanding its territory along the galactic rim. Perhaps we could return to the matter at hand, Lorax suggested, painfully aware of his role as mediator. The human colony ships have already established outposts on 7 worlds within Confederation space. The question before us is not what happened 70 years ago but how we proceed now. Dr. Patel nodded appreciatively. Thank you, Commander. Earth is proposing a phased integration into the galactic community. We understand that full Confederation membership typically requires centuries of preparation, but we believe our circumstances are unique. Unique is one word for it. General Karax muttered. Unprecedented breach of security is another phrase that comes to mind. Unprecedented opportunities might be a more productive perspective, Captain Marcus Taylor suggested. The human had been invited to these negotiations due to his role in the initial contact. He sat beside Dr. Patel, looking remarkably at ease among the diverse alien representatives. Earth brings fresh ideas, innovative approaches to problems the Confederation has struggled with for millennia. Such as? Admiral Pax inquired, genuinely curious despite his initial skepticism about humans. The Void Collective, for instance, Taylor replied. We have reviewed the strategic reports provided by Chairperson Drax. Your conventional approaches have resulted in stalemate for over 3 centuries. General Karax bristled, his cranial spines elevating in agitation. The Draconians have sacrificed countless warriors containing the void. What could humans possibly contribute to this effort? Taylor smiled, that unnerving smile that Lorak had come to recognize as a warning sign. Unconventional thinking. Your military doctrines are magnificent, but predictable. The Void has adapted to them. We suggest something different. We are listening, Chairperson Drax said, leaning forward slightly, internal organs pulsing with interest. Taylor glanced at Dr. Patel, who nodded and activated a holographic display in the center of the table. A complex 3-dimensional star map appeared, with certain systems highlighted in red. These are the primary Void incursion points over the past 50 years, she explained. The Confederation has responded with direct military confrontation at each location, resulting in heavy casualties on both sides but no strategic advantage. Conventional warfare against the Void is ineffective, Taylor continued. They assimilate biological and technological material, learning from each encounter. Every direct engagement makes them stronger. We are aware of the tactical challenges, General Karax growled. What's your point, human? Our point, Dr. Patel said, adjusting the display to show new data, is that the Void operates like a networked organism. It doesn't think like you or me or even like the Praxians or the Quatsarians. It thinks like a virus, a collective intelligence seeking to expand and consume. Lorak found himself nodding despite his lingering reservations about humans. And how does this observation translate to strategy? You don't fight a virus with bullets, Taylor said. You fight it with a vaccine. Something that appears to be what it wants but carries a fatal flaw that spreads throughout its system. A murmur ran through the assembled representatives. Even General Karax looked intrigued, though he quickly masked it with skepticism. You propose biological warfare? The Draconian asked. The Confederation banned such methods millennia ago. Not biological, Dr. Patel clarified. Informational. Based on our analysis of Confederation encounters with the Void, they assimilate data along with physical matter. What if we gave them data they couldn't resist, data that contained a self-replicating paradox that would disrupt their collective consciousness? The room fell silent as the implications sank in. A logical virus. Ambassador Threll said eventually, their skin now a deep, thoughtful purple. Fascinating. But delivering such a payload would require direct contact with a Void node. No ship has penetrated their territory and returned intact. No Confederation ship, Taylor corrected. But the Unity and our other vessels incorporate stealth technology derived from both Draconian and Praxian designs, modified in ways the Void won't recognize. We believe we can penetrate their perimeter, deliver the payload, and withdraw before they identify the threat. You are proposing a suicide mission, Admiral Pax said flatly. We are proposing a calculated risk, Dr. Patel countered, with potential benefits that far outweigh the dangers. Lorak studied the humans carefully. Their brief lives made them approach risk differently than longer-lived species. What seemed reckless to a being with a 500-year lifespan might be a reasonable gamble to a species that rarely saw a century. Why would you take such a risk? Lorak asked finally. Earth is not yet under threat from the void. You could establish your colonies, develop your technologies, and leave this fight to the Confederation for another century at least. Taylor and Dr. Patel exchanged glances. Because we understand existential threats, Commander, Taylor said quietly. Our history is full of them: climate change, nuclear weapons, pandemics, asteroid impacts. We have spent our existence as a species living on the edge of extinction, finding ways to survive despite the odds. The void isn't just your problem, Dr. Patel added. If it continues to expand, eventually it will reach Earth. We prefer to confront threats proactively rather than wait for them to arrive on our doorstep. Besides, Taylor said with a hint of that dangerous smile, we are asking for significant concessions from the Confederation: recognition of our colonies, access to certain technologies, trading rights. We are offering something valuable in return. Opportunistic, General Karax grumbled, but there was a note of reluctant respect in his voice. Pragmatic, Chairperson Drax corrected. And refreshingly direct, the ancient being turned to address the entire assembly. I propose we consider the humans' offer seriously, a joint task force to develop and implement their strategy against the void, in exchange for provisional Confederation membership and recognition of their territorial claims. I second the proposal, Ambassador Threll said immediately, their skin shifting to a bright affirmative blue. One by one, the other representatives signaled their agreement, some enthusiastically, others with visible reservation. General Karax was the last to concede, giving a grudging nod that set his cranial spines rattling. Very well, Chairperson Drax concluded, we shall proceed with the human plan. Commander Vex, you will coordinate with Captain Taylor on the military aspects of this operation. Admiral Pax will oversee the integration of human colony ships into Confederation patrol routes. Ambassador Threll, please work with Dr. Patel on the diplomatic framework for Earth's provisional membership. As the meeting adjourned, Lorak found himself walking alongside Captain Taylor in one of Geneva's immaculate gardens. The spring air was filled with the scent of flowers, not unpleasant, though far less complex than the pheromonal gardens of Lorak's homeworld. You don't seem entirely convinced of our plan, Commander, Taylor observed, breaking the silence that had fallen between them. Lorak's ridge rattled softly. I have spent my career studying threats to the Confederation. The void is the most dangerous we have ever encountered. Many brave warriors have died trying to contain it. And you think we are underestimating the challenge? I think, Lorak said carefully, that humans have a remarkable capacity for both innovation and self-destruction. Your history suggests you often achieve the former immediately before succumbing to the latter. Balor laughed, a sound that still struck Lorak as oddly musical compared to the vocalizations of most species he encountered. Fair assessment. We do have a knack for snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, but we are equally good at the reverse. They stopped beside a small pond where earth creatures called koi swam in lazy circles, their scared bodies gleaming in the sunlight. May I ask you something, Captain? Lorak ventured. Something unofficial. Of course. How much of this was planned? Your sudden technological leap, the colony ships, the proposal to fight the void. Was this opportunism, or had Earth anticipated this confrontation? Taylor was silent for a long moment, watching the fish. Would it worry you more if I said it was planned or if I said it was improvised? Lorak considered the question. Both possibilities are concerning, for different reasons. The truth then, Taylor said, turning to face the commander directly. We discovered your scout ship in 1947, as we said. We learned about the Confederation, the void, and much more. Some wanted immediate contact. Others advocated for secrecy and preparation. The compromiser was Project Ascension. Develop the technology, establish colonies, and reveal ourselves from a position of strength rather than weakness. And the void strategy, that was Dr. Patel's idea, developed over the past decade as we analyzed Confederation reports on void behavior. We expected to negotiate with it eventually, but we didn't anticipate using it as our primary bargaining chip quite so soon. Lorak's ridge rattled thoughtfully. So both planned and improvised. Exactly, Taylor said with a smile. The best human strategies usually are. We set a direction but stay flexible about the path. A dangerous combination. For our adversaries, certainly. Lorak found himself respecting this human, despite his misgivings about the species as a whole. I hope your confidence is justified, Captain. For all our sakes. So do I, Commander. So do I. 2 standard months later, Lorak stood on the bridge of the Eternal Glory watching as the human vessel Unity prepared for its mission into Void territory. The ship had been modified with additional stealth technologies provided by the Praxians and weapon systems from the Draconians. It looked both familiar and alien now, a hybrid of human innovation and Confederation engineering. Final checks complete, Lieutenant Cora reported from her station. The Unity reports ready for departure. Open a channel, Lorak ordered. Captain Taylor's face appeared on the main view screen, now familiar after weeks of joint planning and preparation. Commander Vex, Taylor greeted him. We are ready to proceed. Are you certain about this, Captain? Lorak asked, aware that Admiral Pax and several other high-ranking Confederation officers were listening. The simulations give your mission a 27% chance of success. Better odds than humans usually get, Taylor replied with that characteristic smile. Besides, your calculations don't account for what my people call luck. There's no such thing as luck. General Carax growled from where he stood at the tactical station. Only preparation and opportunity. Then we are well prepared, and this is our opportunity, Taylor said. We launch in 5 minutes. The channel closed and Lorak turned to his assembled officers. All ships maintain position. No one follows the Unity into the Void perimeter unless they signal for assistance. And if they don't signal? Admiral Pax asked quietly. Then we proceed with the conventional containment strategy. Lorak replied, his voice grim. And we remember their sacrifice. The minutes passed in tense silence. On the view screen the Unity's engines glowed blue, then shifted to a strange pulsing purple as they activated the modified propulsion system designed to mimic void energy signatures. They are moving, Cora announced unnecessarily as the ship began to accelerate toward the shimmering boundary that marked void-controlled space. All sensors at maximum, Lorak ordered. Record everything. The Unity approached the boundary, its outline becoming harder to distinguish as its stealth systems engaged fully. For a moment it seemed to hesitate at the edge of Void territory, like a diver gathering courage before plunging into dark waters. Then with a final pulse of its engines it crossed over, and disappeared from all Confederation sensors. Tracking lost, Cora reported, her 4 arms moving rapidly across her console. Attempting to re-establish. Don't bother. General Carax said grimly. The Void's interference field is too strong. We won't see them again unless they make it back out. Lorak's ridge rattled with anxiety, though he kept his expression neutral. Now we wait. The waiting was excruciating. Standard minutes stretched into hours and hours into a full day. The assembled Confederation fleet maintained its position at the edge of void space, sensors straining for any sign of the Unity or its crew. Commander, Admiral Pax said eventually, we should consider the possibility that they still have time, Lorak interrupted. The mission parameters allowed for up to 72 hours. Yes, Commander, the Admiral acknowledged, but his tone suggested he'd already written off the human vessel. As the second day dawned, tensions ran high on the Eternal Glory's bridge. Even the normally composed Lieutenant Cora showed signs of stress, her 4 eyes blinking asynchronously, a rare occurrence for her species. Picking up something, she suddenly announced, jolting everyone to attention. Faint energy signature at coordinates 27 by 184. On screen, Lorak commanded. The view screen zoomed in on a section of the void boundary where a slight disturbance was visible in the otherwise smooth energy field. Is it them? Admiral Pax asked, leaning forward. Impossible to tell, Cora replied. The signature doesn't match any known configuration, Confederation or Void. It could be a trap, General Carax warned. The Void has used debris from captured vessels to lure in rescuers before. Lorak's ridge rattled as he weighed his options. Launch probe drones. Keep the fleet at safe distance. Yes, Commander. 3 small, unmanned vessels detached from the Eternal Glory streaking toward the disturbance at the Void boundary. They were simple devices, equipped with sensors but little else expendable if this was indeed a trap. Drones approaching target. Cora reported. Receiving telemetry. Wait. The disturbance is growing. On the view screen, the ripple in the void boundary expanded suddenly, pulsing with chaotic energy. Recall the drones. General Kurax barked. Prepare defensive positions. But before the drones could retreat, the disturbance erupted into a massive breach in the boundary field, and through that breach came the Unity, or what was left of it. The human vessel was barely recognizable. Its hull was scored with strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid. Parts of it appeared to have been completely transformed into something neither human nor Confederation in design. By the 7 moons, Admiral Pax whispered. What happened to them? They have been compromised, General Karax declared, his clawed hand moving to the weapons console. We must destroy them before they reach the fleet. Wait, Lorak ordered, raising a hand. Lieutenant Cora, can you establish communications? Attempting now, Commander. There's interference. But yes, I have a weak signal. The view screen flickered, and a distorted image appeared. It took Lorak several seconds to recognize Captain Taylor. The human's face was lined with exhaustion. A cut above his right eye had crusted with dried blood, and something strange, something that made Lorak's inner stomach churn, seemed to be crawling beneath the skin of his neck. Unity to Confederation Fleet. Taylor's voice came through, broken and static-filled. Mission accomplished. Repeat. Mission accomplished. Requesting immediate quarantine protocols. Captain Taylor, Lorak acknowledged, struggling to keep his voice steady. Your ship appears to be compromised. A pained smile crossed Taylor's face. That's an understatement, Commander. We have been infected by void entities, but so has the payload. It's working. The virus is spreading through their network. You allowed yourselves to be assimilated. General Karax demanded incredulously. Only partially, Taylor replied, wincing as the movement beneath his skin intensified. Controlled exposure. Dr. Patel's team modified the payload after we entered void space. Used ourselves as vectors. That wasn't in the mission plan, Admiral Pax protested. Improvisation, Taylor said, his smile turning grim. Human specialty. Listen carefully. You need to quarantine us. The ship, the crew, everything. We are carrying active void nanites, but they are infected with our logical virus. If the quarantine holds for 72 hours, the virus will complete its work and the nanites will deactivate. And if the quarantine fails? Lorak asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Then you will have to destroy us, Taylor said simply. Before the void adaptation overrides our modifications. Lorak exchanged glances with his officers, seeing the same mixture of awe and horror on their faces that he felt himself. Understood, Captain. Proceed to coordinates being transmitted now. Quarantine vessels will meet you there. Thank you, Commander. Unity out. As the transmission ended, a heavy silence fell over the bridge. They knew, Admiral Pax said finally. They knew they might have to sacrifice themselves. Of course they knew, General Korax replied, a new note of respect in his gravelly voice. It was the logical approach, the only approach with a reasonable chance of success. But to voluntarily allow void nanites to infiltrate their bodies, Cora shuddered. All 4 arms wrapping around herself protectively. As the captain said, Lorak remarked, improvisation is a human specialty. Along with self-sacrifice, it seems. The quarantine proceeded according to the strictest Confederation protocols. The Unity and its crew were sealed within a specially constructed containment facility at the edge of the system, monitored continuously for signs of void activity. And as the hours ticked by, something remarkable began to happen. The void boundary nearest to the Confederation fleet started to flicker and destabilize. Gaps appeared, quickly closing but then reopening elsewhere. The coherent energy field that had resisted all conventional attacks for centuries was breaking down from within. It's working, Admiral Pax reported 70 hours into the quarantine, his voice filled with disbelief. The logical virus is spreading throughout the void network. Their collective consciousness is fragmenting. Lorak watched the sensor readings with a mixture of relief and lingering concern. And the Unity crew? Stable, for now, Cora reported. The void nanites in their systems are showing decreasing activity levels just as Captain Taylor predicted. Extraordinary, Ambassador Threll commented from where they stood observing at the rear of the bridge. their skin a bright excited yellow. The humans succeeded where 3 centuries of Confederation efforts failed. At great personal cost, Lorak reminded them. Even if they survive, those crew members will never be the same. Void contamination leaves permanent changes. A sacrifice they chose to make, General Karax said. The Draconian had been uncharacteristically quiet since the Unity's return, his usual belligerence replaced by thoughtful observation. For a species we dismissed as primitive just months ago. Lorak's ridge rattled in agreement. Perhaps that was our mistake. We judged them by their technology, their history, their brief lives. We should have judged them by their adaptability, their determination, their willingness to risk everything for survival. Their capacity to push back, Admiral Pax added, push a human and they push back harder. An admirable trait in moderation. Let us hope, Lorak said, that we can teach them moderation before they push the galaxy further than it's prepared to go. 1 standard year later, Commander Lorak Vex stood once again in Geneva, this time attending the formal ceremony recognizing Earth as a provisional member of the Galactic Confederation. The Grand Hall was filled with representatives from dozens of worlds, many of whom had been skeptical or outright hostile to human inclusion just months before. The Void Collective had not been destroyed. Such an ancient and vast entity could not be eliminated so easily, but it had been severely weakened and forced to retreat from Confederation space. The logical virus designed by Dr. Patel and her team had fragmented its collective consciousness, reducing it from an existential threat to a containable nuisance. Captain Marcus Taylor led the human delegation, looking remarkably recovered from his ordeal. There were still signs of coarse geometric scars visible on his hands, a slight metallic gleam to his eyes in certain lights, but the void nanites had been neutralized, their destructive purpose rewritten by human ingenuity and Confederation medicine. As chairperson Drax presented the formal charter of membership, Lorak found himself reflecting on his initial impressions of humans. He'd thought them primitive, impulsive, dangerously unpredictable. He hadn't been entirely wrong, they were all those things, but they were also innovative, courageous and surprisingly principled when it mattered most. "Something on your mind, Commander?" Taylor asked, approaching after the ceremony with a glass of champagne, an earth beverage that Lorak had developed a cautious appreciation for. "Just contemplating the remarkable journey that brought us here, Captain. A year ago I was preparing to neutralize your ships as potential threats. Today I'm drinking to Earth's admission to the Confederation." Taylor smiled, that same smile that Lorak had once found unsettling but now recognized as a sign of genuine amusement. "The galaxy works in mysterious ways, Commander. Or as my grandmother used to say, life comes at you fast." "Indeed," Lorak agreed, his ridge rattling with gentle humor. "Though I suspect the speed has more to do with humans than with the galaxy itself. You do have a tendency to accelerate everything you touch." "A side effect of short lifespans," Taylor replied. "We don't have centuries to deliberate every decision." "Perhaps the rest of the Confederation could benefit from a touch of that urgency," Lorak admitted. "We have grown comfortable in our longevity." They were interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Patel, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the Confederation. "Captain, Commander, I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all, Ambassador," Lorak assured her. "We were just discussing the virtues of human impatience. One of our more useful flaws," she agreed with a smile. "Speaking of which, the Council has approved our proposal for joint exploration of the Gamma Quadrant. 3 human vessels will accompany the Confederation science fleet." "So soon?" Lorak couldn't keep the surprise from his voice. The traditional waiting period for new members to participate in exploration missions is at least 5 years. The Council felt that, given Earth's contributions, certain traditions could be expedited, Dr. Patel explained diplomatically. "In other words," Taylor translated with a grin, "they are curious to see what else we might come up with if given access to unexplored territories." Lorak's ridge rattled with amusement. "A calculated risk on their part." "Life is risk, Commander," Dr. Patel said. "Especially when dealing with forces greater than ourselves. The Void taught us that, but so did your Confederation, in its way." "How so?" Lorak asked. "You pushed us," Taylor explained, "not intentionally perhaps, but by keeping us isolated, by observing without engaging. You created pressure. And when pushed, humans push back harder." Lorak finished, raising his glass in a toast. To productive pushing then, may it continue to benefit us all. As their glasses clinked together, a curious Earth custom that Lorak found oddly satisfying, he couldn't help but wonder what other surprises these brief, fragile, remarkably resilient creatures might have in store for the galaxy. Whatever came next, he suspected it would be, as humans were fond of saying, one hell of a ride.